We are live. Welcome to Faith, Family, and Fitness in your 50s.
What's up?
I am Susan, and this is my co-host, Lee Brown, and we are really switching it up.
Yes.
First of all, Lee has his glasses on, and that is like special occasion material.
Well, I can't see or read anything without them, so.
And I am au naturel. We have no makeup on, so you're just getting like the real thing. This is like really us. And the other switcheroo is that Lee is going to be leading today. So we are in for a ride. Are you ready to go?
We're going to test this thing out and see what happens.
All right.
So I'll just start with the scripture, Ephesians 5, and it says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one." So we get that. I understand that. But the question I have today is, how does that apply when it comes to children? My question is, as we become one and we cling to each other and we know our parents, their role, you are my number one. How does that play into when we start having children? Is that concept still the same? Am I still your number one? Or do the children become one? And I'm asking you this question because as a woman who carries the child, that bonding that is created, and then all of a sudden this life that you give through your body. So my question is, how was that for you, having children and then having this husband, and the balance of keeping which one's more important?
Well, I failed at keeping my husband the number one. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I grew up in a Catholic home, Easter, Christmas. And again, parents do the very best that they can and that they know. And I have no fault to my parents whatsoever because they gave me their best. But I did not have that upbringing to know that when I got married, that you would be my number one, even with kids.
Right. And
kids are super demanding. They demand a lot of your time and a lot of your energy, and husbands, they don't so much require so much time and energy. So I thought,
right.
But I was wrong. I most definitely neglected my duties as keeping you first and being wife because I was so caught up in our children and the busy of the day to day on. Let's get them fed. There were times where I just felt like a cow. Like I felt like I was pregnant for like 4 years, and like all I was just feeding babies and changing diapers. So there were times that I would just tell Lee, I was like, I just feel like a cow. All I do is like produce milk, and everybody wants something from me, and I'm so. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question very well.
No, it kind of does. I think, where we have, couples that, my child is my number one, my husband takes second. And that I think there is that nurturing process where you do have to take care of your children because they don't know how to take care of themselves. But when they start getting to that age, 5 years old, 10 years old, and we're still having that, I'm going to put all my time and my attention into my children. I think that's where that balance you have to start making those adjustments. Because again, as infants, of course, I knew the children needed you. I knew that in the middle of the night, it's not going to be me breastfeeding. It's something that, the motherhood, that's a part of God's creation, that you're, nurturing the children. But again, when they get to that age where we see the strained relationship because that mother or that father will put their child ahead of the spouse. Like, my child is more important than my wife. My child is more important than my husband. And that's where I see big failures and breakdowns because, again, I see children using that and using parents against each other because they know they can. I think we struggled a little bit with that. I think with us, it was more so on the discipline styles that we chose to to do, and I was more hands off, and she was more hands on. If you get my drift here. But again, even that process was how we were raised, and I'll share my how I was raised as far as discipline, and then you can share yours and how you felt.
I want to stop
Okay.
just for a second because you said a word that I want to go back to. You
Sure.
said balance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's imbalanced or out of balance.
Right.
I think of Jordan saying
Yes,
out of
our
balance.
son would say out of balance.
It was out of balance, and it is out of balance when you do not put your spouse first. God has a hierarchy, and He is first, and then it's your family, and then it's your job.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get it wrong. We get it mixed up, and the family starts to fail, and they start to feel it. The
Right.
marriage, there's tension in there because it's out of whack. It's not in His order. He is a God of order. And thinking of God being the Father, that we would come to Him, and get our nurturing and getting our love and getting all of our needs met through Him.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. Yes. You have to get your needs met through the Father, right? But going back to, our differences as far as
How we were raised.
and how that played a picture in how we discipline our children. I was raised down south, so you got your bottom touched and touched often. And I think I was sharing with you, I forget how many years we had been married when I told you that at one particular point in my life, I had got like 30 spankings in a row, 30 days in a row. And I was keeping count. And, down south in the schools that I attended, your teacher, your principal could actually spank you. So when you got in trouble in class, there's a little area in the back of the room. You go and pull the curtain, like the kids couldn't hear, close the curtain, like they know I'm getting my butt whooped back here. So again, and through some more experiences, having my dad would talk to me. Like when I got in trouble, he'd actually ask me questions as to why. And to me, I thought that was so cool because there were so many spankings that I got, and there was never asked, why did you do that? It did one and two things. It made me actually think about what I had done, why I did it. And like the next time something like that would happen, I would think twice because my dad would ask me the question. So I wanted to be that type of dad, but understanding that kids kind of know that, like, oh, dad's a talker, so I'm really not gonna get in trouble. And my wife would remind me of that, like, you're just talking, and they're gonna act like they're, oh, I'm so sorry, then they're gonna go do it again. So your upbringing and how you were disciplined.
Well, I was adopted, so my parents had their older 3 children, and then as you have each child, you get a little more lax. It's like that diaper commercial where the first one you're a little hyper vigilant on everything. Nobody touched my child without sanitizing your whole entire body. And then the second one's like, you could be full of dirt and you can handle my child. I don't care. Right. Just give me a break. So by the time you get to the fourth one, it's like, oh, I'm just hands off. Right. I just tired. I don't have the energy. So again, parents do the very best that they can. And I know my parents did. And they were very hands off as far as what they required. And I was also really headstrong. Going through lots of different things as a child and as a teenager, trauma that I went through. I had a really hard shell. And so I had a hard shell with my parents as well for different reasons. So they may have set a curfew or may have set some boundaries with me, but because of some habits that I had developed to protect myself, I put myself in a place where I was not going to listen. Mm-hmm. So when I had children, I was like, I want to save my children from the heartaches that I suffered from. So I took the more controlling stance, and that's what fear does. Fear says control, 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 because then you won't have to worry about things. And I bought into that lie, and I think I see a lot of that happening today. People are so fearful that they're just trying to control every aspect of their child's life. So you've got the helicopter parents, or you've got the lawnmower parents, and I mean, I deal with lawnmower parents and helicopter parents, and I totally get it, but it's not the right way, and it's not the healthy way to raise your children.
Yeah, I remember. I remember. This is. I can't remember what year it was, but it was early in our marriage.
I don't know years.
And I think you said something like, "I wasn't spanked when I was raised, and I know what type of hell I raised, so I'm gonna spank my kids," or something like that. I can just remember laughing so hard because you were so serious and intense about it. I'm like, whoa. But I think we did come together to create, again, balance. Because I think sometimes a lot of couples say it's either my way or the highway, or vice versa. But I think you and I did a really good job of, after the dysfunction, we come together and we blend. I think you thought it was very healthy to ask questions and have conversations with our children, but they also needed to be held accountable. So if it was a spanking and a conversation, so be it. And I began to kind of realize that, and I love the fact that you started incorporating sign language and things like that, because I think everywhere we went, people were like, "Oh, your kids are so well behaved," just because we had Susan had taught them sign language, and taught me sign language. So when we're in public, we knew how to sign, stop, sit down, no. And yeah, so that blend of having a conversation, asking the questions, why did you do that? Also with touching that bottom every once in a while, we think it really gave our children balance, and there wasn't much room for them to play us against each other after we kind of go, hey, let's work this plan for the good of this family, not for just to please me or me please you, but bringing those things together. And I really do think it worked. So one question for you, what advice would you give to a couple right now that find themselves in chaos, where they are in the midst of, one of them is showing more love and favor to their children over their spouse? Because in my opinion, it's never too late to correct a bad habit or whatever. So what advice would you give to a couple that's struggling with that?
I think we've talked about self-evaluation a lot, and asking ourselves, what is my husband needing right now? Because habits are communication, or behaviors are communications. So if there's tension in a marriage, that's communication that something is out of whack. So what's out of whack? And I just want to go back to you saying, it's never too late. I learned really late, so I failed for a long, long time with the kids of trying to control, because I hadn't given it over to God yet, to trust God that He was going to take care of my kids, because that's what His Word says. His Word says that you give Him your cares, He cares for you, and that He's going to answer your prayers. And my prayers are in line that my kids would know Him and love Him and serve Him with all of their heart, mind, and strength. And I failed because I was trying to control them. So it was only later, when they got into middle school and high school, where I actually started to be more of a listener and be more of a questioner, to try and figure out, why would they make that choice, or what drove them to that, and what can I do better. So that would be my advice to families that are struggling. Ask questions of each other to try and figure out, so you get more information to make an informed decision.
Right. And I agree with that, and I say be open and vulnerable and transparent. Because I think when you look at society today, there's always, finger pointing, and there's never a two-way conversation. It's pretty much one way. This is what I believe. And if you don't believe with that, you're this and that. And I think that's so sad, where we've lost the ability to listen and process. We just want it our way. And I think if couples just take the time to just listen to their spouse more, understand from their position, understand that they were raised in a different household than you were, understand that they went through different things when it came to discipline. So it's with that understanding that will draw you guys closer. So I think it's just a shame where I'm just too selfish and just too caught up in my ways, where I'm like, yeah, Susan, whatever. And I think, it showed up early and often in our marriage at the beginning, because I think we both were saying, this is my ideal of a happy marriage, and this is what it's going to be like. And I never stopped and said, hey, what's your idea of a happy marriage? So I have formulated my own plan, my own agenda, and I missed out on one huge equation. I'm partnering with you to create that, and I just can't create the plan without your help, and just expect you to jump in whenever I say, hey, you do this, do that. So we've learned a lot. And again, I thank the Lord for our struggles. I thank the Lord because we learned so much in those times. And
super humbling.
Yeah.
Super hard. Yeah, it draws you back to Him, which that's why you're thankful for trials and for challenges, because it draws you back to Him and how gentle He is when He corrects us. And so that's another thing that changed how I handled my kids. I thought of how God handled me in my rebellion, in my disobedience, in my selfishness and pride. God, His Holy Spirit was just so gentle, and yet so consistent and so persistent. And I think sometimes parents can be inconsistent, and then that throws the child for a loop, and that sets them back a little bit as far as discipline. And discipline's just training. Discipline doesn't mean I'm going to put my hand on you, or it doesn't mean I'm going to ground you, or you're going to have to hold hands with your sister for 5 hours. Discipline is training. And so I think we both wanted strong discipline for our children as far as training, because they were Black children going into a world that was not accepting of them. And we wanted them to be able to make sound, solid choices, and to take in all information before making a decision, and to be self-disciplined, if that's if that's the word that I'm looking for. So they didn't just fly off the cuff.
Right.
And they would have some questioning tactics like we used with them. So they would be a little more empathetic or understanding of other people, why they might be treating them a certain way or doing certain things to them.
Right. And I do think that you made huge adjustments. And I think it shows now, because to see our kids, how they reach out to you, they reach out to us, but they, when they do reach out to you for advice, or when they you tell them how proud you are. And our children aren't young anymore, but I loved how you made that adjustment, and how it's never too late for God to change a situation. So you changed that situation. You changed how you communicated with the children, and just to open up a door that's kind of everlasting, where I feel that we can talk to our children about anything. Sometimes I really don't want to talk to them about things. I'm like, oh wow, really don't want to talk. But again, it's just awesome to know that they save that space for us, and they invite us into their lives, and they ask us questions. And because I know many couples out there that don't have that, relationship with their children. And again, how we started with the extreme discipline piece, but then making adjustments to that. And I even think too, I had to make adjustments. I can remember you was like, honey, you just kind of invite yourself into their situations, and you don't ask. And I step back and go, wow, you're right. And I think out of respect, they would listen to me. But again, giving them that space to say, hey, I'm going to go ask Dad about this. I'm going to ask Dad's advice about that. And that was just such a blessing to me when I'm invited to give advice, when I'm invited to partner with my children, as opposed to just coming in like a bulldozer or a wrecking ball, which my nickname is Shrek because I do just wreck stuff or Wreck-It Ralph.
Isn't that like the Holy Spirit, though? He's such a gentleman, and he waits to be invited, and God is the ultimate parent.
Yes.
And if we will take his lead, if we'll learn and listen from him and his word, we'll be such better parents. Mm-hmm. We won't be as fearful. I'm not saying you're not going to be fearful, because there's some crazy stuff going on out there, but you'll be less fearful and less controlling. And when we go back to your original question, as far as do you put your kids ahead of your spouse, later on in life, it's me and you.
Right.
And so, you got them for maybe 18 years, and then they're out for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. So you want to cater to that one relationship, which is the rest of your life with this person. And I want to know you as my best friend. I want to partner with you because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. Right. Not talking about the kids, although we do talk about the kids and the grands.
We do.
We use their voices still. We still sing their songs. And we're still doing it. But
that's hilarious because I think every parent has a song for each child. And I think just yesterday you were singing one of the songs, and you walked into one of the rooms, and I had the window open. She's like, hey, you got to tell me when the window's open. Because our neighbors can hear us. So we're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Next time I'll warn you when I open windows in the house. So we're not singing our kids' baby songs. So anyways.
I think the way that we're going to leave this episode is through some challenges. So tomorrow is May 1st, May Day. And I always think of May Day because Lee told me a story about, and it still touches my heart. And I love your dad. I knew him twice. I met him twice. Mm-hmm. And I love your dad. But the impact that he made coming to your school on May Day, I just think, wow. What an impact just one thing is. So I was thinking we could probably have a challenge. Each time we have an episode, you have a faith challenge, you have a family challenge, and you have a fitness challenge.
Sure.
And so we don't ever want to stay comfortable because you cannot grow in comfortable spaces. Right. We've always got to be changing and evolving, and that takes a little pain sometimes and discomfort.
Does it ever?
So, for the faith challenge, one thing that I would challenge you to do is before your feet even hit the floor is to thank God for as many things that you can think of. Even if it is just opening your eyes. Thanks for waking me up this morning. Thank you for this warm bed that I really want to stay in. Thank you for that half night of sleep. I kept waking up, or just thank him for anything and everything that you could possibly think of before your feet hit the floor. That's keeping God first. And the family challenge, I would say, would lay your hands on your child. If you have a child in your house, lay your hand on your child. Lay your hand on your head. Say a prayer for them. If you don't have your child in your house, then I would say text them, call them, definitely send them a prayer. I don't know if our children appreciate it. I think they do, but I send them prayers when they come to my mind, and they're probably super respectful and just like, thanks, Mom. Smiley face. Oh, Mom. But that would be my family challenge. And my fitness challenge for you, I have different fitness challenges each week. So mine are specific to me, and they're usually in regard to something that I'm working on. So I have Bloomsday that is coming up. So something I need to work on fitness-wise would be on keeping up with my core exercises and my hip flexor exercises. I don't like doing core and I don't like doing hip flexor exercises. So that's my own personal challenge to myself. I would ask you to look at your life. What is an area that is not easy? If you're a bench person, or if you're a curl person, or if you're a runner person, and that all comes easy to you, I'm saying step outside of the box. What's not easy for you? And choose something. Maybe it's 1 minute. I'm going to do 1 minute of core. I'm going to do 1 minute on my PT exercises, and then keep building it throughout the week, because maybe by the end of the week you'll be at 7 minutes.
Right. I like those challenges, and I think I'm going to try them too. Because it was for the audience, but I'm going to try these too. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And remember that you can go to YouTube, and we're on the GG Pop-Pops. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment, and we will respond to you guys if you leave a comment.
All right. Remember to keep God first.
Practice your faith. Have fun. Stay fit. So this live thing, we're going to have to get used to this. So thank you guys for bearing with us. And we'll see you guys next time. God bless.